February 12th, 2021. What's up, guys? Man, there's so much going on. And you know what? There's so much focus and hyper-focus on the coronavirus and the coronavirus vaccine that I just don't feel like there's much need for me to ever even talk about it. Every once in a while, I'll throw out, hey, guess what? The new VAERS reports were just released. We're now up to 660 deaths, deaths that have been reported. And we're only a few weeks into the release of that vaccine. What, 10 weeks? 10 weeks, and we already have 660 reported deaths, and many of these events go unreported. This is a train wreck, guys. So go out there and do your research there. But today, what I want to talk about is cancer, and more importantly, childhood cancers. Now, I do talk a lot about vaccines because I do bring more of a hyper focus to that arena because it's something that is, for the most part, in the general population of the world, is overlooked until the coronavirus vaccine. And now you'll hear people say, oh, I would never get that untested thing, but of course my family will get all the other vaccines because those are safe, which is not even close to true. None of them have been safety tested at all. To a inert placebo, which means none of them have a safety track record that can be trusted at all. And reporting, just like with the vaccine that people have their eyes on right now, is underreported across the board. Now, when it comes to childhood cancers, just like any other condition, there is an entire landscape of environmental factors that are contributing to either, cancer or whatever the condition, okay? I don't pick a condition. It's not just vaccines. It's not just mercury. It's not just lead. It's not just fluoride. It's a toxic load, the accumulative toxic load, nutritional deficiencies, and genetic susceptibilities, epigenetic susceptibilities, right? And cancer is no different. So if you follow my content beyond vaccines, you know that we've discussed fluoride and how fluoride contributes greatly to many different types of cancers. And we've talked about Roundup, glyphosate, and even just genetically modifying foods in general has huge implications in the cancer arena. And environmental factors like flame retardants, plastics, emissions, you name it. We are constantly, bombarded by toxins. And then, of course, we live in this deficient environment with our agricultural practices where our soils are depleted, and so we all have nutritional deficiencies. We are never going outside the way we're supposed to, so we're not getting the benefits of the sun, and so we're all vitamin D deficient. We live in a toxic, deficient environment, and it is the perfect storm for disease, including cancer. Now, childhood cancer is a huge, huge issue and something that has just consistently been on the rise, exponentially, like autism, like neurological disease, like autoimmune disease. But cancer is a huge, huge challenge and a big, big problem. So let's take a look a little bit about childhood cancers and what's kind of happening here. So this is from 1999. It's called A Rise in the Incidence of Childhood Cancer in the United States. It says from the early 1980s to the 1990s, the incidence of cancer in American children under 10 years of age rose 37%. In one decade, it rose 37%. So on average, that's a 3% annual uptick. That's huge, huge. It says there's an inverse correlation between the increases in cancer rates and age at diagnosis, showing that the largest rise, a 54% rise in childhood diagnosis, occurred in children diagnosed before the first birthday. Before they turned 1, we're seeing this huge increase in cancer rates, okay? And then it goes on to talk about how cancer shot up between 1982 and 83, kind of takes a little dip, and then it shoots up again between 86 and 87. And of course, this was written in 1999, and so they're kind of going, what's going on here? It says there's no apparent explanation for these trends, suggesting that researchers should analyze the data more fully and propose hypotheses on potential causes. Potential causes. Gee, I wonder. We are poisoned from every angle in our lives, and then as soon as they're born, they're injected with toxins. Let's take a look at it. Okay, just one sec. My phone keeps dinging. All right, sorry about that. So let's fast forward to something more recent. So here's an article. February of 2020. Childhood cancer rates increase with no change in sight. Then you hear some similar numbers. The overall incidence rate of childhood cancer in Australia increased by 1.2% per year between 2005 and 2015 and is expected to rise a further 7% over the next 20 years. The overall age standardized incidence rate of childhood cancer increased by 34% between 1983 and 2015. Dang. And they don't have such an aggressive childhood vaccine schedule as we do. Theirs is pretty bad, but not as bad as the United States. And their childhood cancer numbers are insane. Disgusting. It says, although the reasons for these rises are largely unknown, our findings provide a foundation for healthy service planning. We're going to invest in just planning around this issue and not solving it, right? This finding is consistent with reports from other countries, raising questions about the reasons for the increasing rates. Greater investment in research into the etiology of childhood cancer is required. We pour more money into cancer research by the billions and billions of dollars that has nothing to do with actually solving the problem. Come on. So here's a really great article, actually, by The Hill. This is from February of 2018. This is so good, though. It's called Cancer in Kids is on the Rise. What's the cause? Right? That shouldn't we always be looking for? The root cause? It says, although more than 80% of children with cancer in the U.S. now survive 5 or more years, the incidence of childhood cancer has been steadily increasing by an average of 0.6% per year since 1975 to become the number one cause of death by disease in children. Cancer, the number one cause of death by disease in children. According to the American Childhood Cancer Organization, this year alone, this is 2018, more than 1,250 children under the age of 15 will die from childhood cancer. What's wrong with our kids? What is making them sick in the first place? Well-documented lifestyle-related risk factors, such as being overweight and habits like smoking and drinking alcohol, are known to play a major role in many disease types of adult cancers, but are not officially associated with childhood cancers since they usually take many years to influence cancer risk. However, recent research has uncovered a possible overlap between cancer and autism. Well, isn't that interesting? An overlap between cancer and autism. Another increasing threat to our children nowadays, 1 in 68 Americans, which it's now officially 1 in 59, but in New Jersey and Utah it's 1 in 20 boys. On average, it's probably more like 1 in 36. Okay. According to researchers at the Massachusetts General Hospital, cancer and autism could be superficially different deviations in development and function that at a deeper level derive from common mechanisms regarding signaling pathways related to metabolic alterations. Isn't that interesting? But not surprising. So, could all those children diagnosed with cancer and autism be victims of the increased toxicity that starts poisoning us even before birth? Yes, absolutely. A study spearheaded by the Environmental Working Group found an average of 200 industrial chemicals and pollutants in the umbilical cord blood from babies. Over 200 chemicals. Tests revealed that as many as 287 chemicals in the umbilical cord blood, 180 of which are known to cause cancer in humans and animals. And as soon as we begin eating and drinking as young children, additional sources of pollution find their way into our babies. And this is tragically true. We're just surrounded by chemical interventions in our lives. In 2012, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration banned BPA, bisphenol A, a chemical commonly used for decades in plastic products and being used in manufacturing of all baby bottles and spill-proof drinking cups. Unfortunately, many consumer products are still manufactured with BPA. Tons of them. Even low levels of BPA affect the hormones that control the development of the brain, the reproductive system, and the immune system. All right, more about BPA. So BPA is not only toxic and can cause cancer, but it's very estrogenic and is causing all kinds of endocrine disruption too. So, what is the future holding for our children? There is no more prophetic depiction of this state of affairs than what Dr. Ghislaine Langto wrote in the introduction for the 2002 re-edition of her book, The Medical Mafia. Food is irradiated, milk is pasteurized, genes are modified, water is contaminated, and the air is poisoned. Here is key, outside of all of that, which we know is causing cancers. Children receive 35 vaccines before entering the school system. Whole families are drugged. Dad's on Viagra, mom's on Prozac, and the children are on Ritalin. According to the American Cancer Society, the reasons for DNA changes that cause most childhood cancers are not known. Sure. Supporting and rejuvenating the function of the body's own systems on a daily basis through potent and complex whole food formulas is the necessary next step to protect our health. There is a significant difference between natural and synthetic vitamins. Natural vitamins come with various bioflavonoids, those cofactors thought to increase the bioavailability of vitamins by 30%. And it's probably way bigger than that. Not only is it more bioavailable, but the impact of the vitamin or the antioxidant or the coenzyme is like magnified when it's naturally found in your food. Finally, the obvious last step should be to incorporate supplements that help fight the onslaught of increasingly common viruses such as Epstein-Barr virus, HPV, hepatitis B, C, herpes, HIV. All are capable of causing these development of cancers. And guess what we do? We inject our kids with them. We're so stupid. Other supplements may support a healthy level of white blood cells and platelets, which remain at the core of our immunity. Some studies show that some specific RNA fragments will do just that. It will take lawmakers, scientists, industry, and advocates worldwide to come together to create a new and better environment. Yet how many children around the world have to die before we get the message that they need a better, cleaner place to live and thrive? Great question. Great article. Good for you, The Hill, for publishing such a good article. Now, to continue on with how vaccines are contributing to childhood cancers, if you've seen the work of Dr. Teresa Deisher and the fragmented human, or the DNA fragments from human fetal aborted tissue that are in vaccines, and how our stem cells will capture that up and start replicating, that's really important to have as a foundation of understanding. But to see what's really happening here, it's disgusting. So Children's Health Defense, Robert Kennedy's group, published a really great article where they had reviewed some research done by Corvelva team in Italy that really dove into the MRC5 ingredient of vaccines and ran a whole genome on it. And this was October 3rd of 2019 that this was published. It says, new data shows DNA from aborted fetal cell lines in vaccines. So it says the Italian Vaccine Research and Advocacy Organization, Corvelva, released new data regarding the use of aborted fetal cell lines in vaccines. The research reports that results produced from the MRC5 cells, which are in many of our vaccines, particularly the one contained in the GlaxoSmithKline's tetravalent measles, mumps, chickenpox vaccine. One sec. The Corvelva team summarized their findings as follows. 1. Fetal cell line was found to belong to a male fetus. We know this. 2. The cell line presents itself in such a way that it's likely to be very old, which is consistent with the declared line of the 1960s. We also know this. 3. The fetal human DNA represented in this vaccine is a complete individual genome that is the genomic DNA of the chromosomes of an individual. The whole genome is present in the vaccine, in its entirety. The human genomic DNA contained in this vaccine is clearly, undoubtedly abnormal, presenting important inconsistencies with typical human genome. That is, with that of a healthy individual. So not only is it of another human, but it's a sick, abnormal human loaded with disease, including mental illness, being injected into you and your children. What could possibly go wrong? Number 5, 560 genes known to be associated with forms of cancer were tested and all underwent major modifications. There are variations whose consequences are not even known, not yet appearing in the literature, but which still affect genes involved in the induction of human cancers. And this is being injected into your babies, and it's taken right up into our own DNA. 7. What is also clearly abnormal is the genome excess showing changes in the number of copies and structural variants. They go on to note, according to the guidelines, which are found in the report, the presence of the fetal DNA from cell lines MRC5 and WI38 as diploids does not provide the upper limits. There is no limit to the amount that can be found inside a vaccine. And the limits that they're finding them at are 100 times higher than what the World Health Organization would be safe, which in itself is not safe. Okay, the first genetic anomalies were found on these lines, considered negligible for the safety of vaccines 40 years ago, as reported in the WHO guidelines. Since then, no updates have been made in the new sequencing technologies. Okay, so anyway, you guys can go read this. Let's go down to the bottom. Our results greatly reinforce the experimentation observations of Teresa Deischer and especially the fact that the contaminant fetal DNA present in all samples analyzed in varying quantities, thus completely uncontrolled, is up to 300 times higher than the limit imposed by the EMA for carcinogenic DNA. Corresponding DNA, okay, blah, 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 blah. A limit that must also be applied to the MRC5 fetal DNA, which inevitably contaminates this particular vaccine. And I'll show you here in a minute, this MRC5 contaminates many of our vaccines, including the new coronavirus vaccines. All of them are cultured on the MRC5 cells. The very next day, Mike Adams wrote a great article about this titled Medical Horror, Genetic Sequencing of Common Vaccine Finds Entire Male Human Genome from Aborted Human Babies, a complete individual genome with abnormal modified genes, 560 genes linked to cancer. This is a great review of this article, kind of goes through some of the same information, dives a little bit deeper into the research, and has a great take on it. And I'd love, love, love to play this for you. Mike Adams' interpretation of the study and the consequences of it, not just causing cancer in all of us, but some of the mental health issues that come along with it. So the mom, right, this baby that was aborted, right, came from a mentally ill mother in prison. And that is, who knows what other genetic issues were involved in that baby. And we are just passing this on to every human that gets vaccinated. It's unreal. I highly recommend you find this, naturalnews.com, find this, scroll down to the bottom, and watch this video. It's really important. I'm not going to play it because it will just get removed and deleted. They will not allow that type of conversation to happen on social media anymore. Go do the research yourself. Let's actually go over to Corvella's site. So Corvella.it, because this is an Italian research group, has the information here. So it's called Vaccine Gate, MRC5 contained in this particular vaccine, the Priorix Titra, complete genome sequencing. And they go in and talk about how they found the entire genome of the boy in the vaccine of the MRC5 component. The results: the human reference genome was found to be matched by 99.76% reads from vaccine DNA. That means nearly in all of its entirety. The human fetal DNA presented in this vaccine is a single entire genome. That means the vaccine itself contains genomic DNA with all the chromosomes of a male individual. In fact, the MRC5 originates from a male fetus. And then you can go in here and read it. I highly recommend that you do. But it talks a lot about the manipulation that was done to these genes in this product. And then it does a comparison showing in this genome. This is a model of a normal genome. And then this is the model of the genetically modified genome that's in these vaccines. And there's all these overlaps and concentric circles inside of here, causing all these weird anomalies, right? And they're going to go in here and walk you through the meaning of all these concentric circles. And you can go layer by layer. The center here is number 7, then it goes to number 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it'll walk you through what all of these kind of represent in the genome. Highly recommend you go ahead and go read that. And then it shows you different comparisons between the MRC5 versus the DNA that's found in the polio vaccine. Different issues, but big deal nonetheless. And then variant analysis in cancer genes. So the analysis on the SNP blah 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 variants on 560 genes chosen because they involved in different forms of human cancer shows the presence of numerous original variants. That's to say that they are not even present in the public database, therefore are not known in the literature. So we're having unknown consequences for everybody that's taking these vaccines. Unique issues that can present in our own DNA. In other words, important modifications of genes known to be associated with various tumor forms have been identified for all of the 560 verified genes. Furthermore, there are variants whose consequences are unknown, but which, however, affect genes involved in the induction of human cancer. Conclusion: the human genomic DNA contained in the Priorix lot vaccine is evidently anomalous, presenting important inconsistencies if compared to a typical human genome. For example, the one of a healthy human being. There are several unknown variants, not noted in public databases, and some of them are located in genes involved in cancer. What is also apparently anomalous is the excess of genomes that show changes in the number of copies and structural variants, such as translocations, insertions, deletions, duplications, and inversions, many of which involve genes. The potential contributions of the numerous variants that are not even present in scientific literature or in public databases to the phenotype of the cells used for the growth of vaccine viruses is not known. And you guys feel comfortable injecting this into your precious babies? Heck no. Let's head over to the CDC website and go to the excipient table and just do a quick search on MRC. Which vaccines do we use that have the MRC cell lining in them? Hepatitis A. Okay, here's MRC5, Hep A, Hep B, MMR. Multiple MMR. All the MMR have either the WI38 or the MRC5. This is aborted fetal tissue with human DNA. Complete genomes. Cancer causing. MMR, varicella. So our chickenpox vaccines, as well as the shingles vaccines, the zoster shingles and both zoster shingles, depending on the manufacturer. So those particular vaccines are all cultured with aborted fetal tissue, and now every single coronavirus vaccine. All of these being injected into us, all of them having the potential of many different genetic modifications in our body at a DNA level, at an epigenetic level, affecting our mental health, affecting cancer, affecting autism, affecting neurodegeneration, affecting autoimmune disease. You name it. Just the fact that those contaminants are in the vaccine is a huge issue. And that is just talking about one ingredient, one contaminant, because they'll tell you, oh, well, it's used in the manufacturing process, but it's taken out. Really? Because we found the entire genome of a human in the vaccine. It's not taken out. Don't believe the lies, guys. So you can go in and do a ton of research on this. There's other articles you can find. Vaccine Gate is kind of their topic or category of vaccine research here on Corvelva's website, and this is a great website. So you can go in and pick which country or language you want to see and dive into a ton of research. They do great research on vaccines. They do great research on pharmaceuticals. They dive in deep about consequences about benzodiazepines being the opium of choice in America. Paracetamol, which is Tylenol, acetaminophen, all of the same thing. Consequences of those drugs, environmental factors, pesticides, all of this covered on this site. Really, really, really good site. If you've never visited Corvelva, I recommend you do. Anyway, just wanted to point out, and that's just, the human DNA. There's tons of retrovirus contamination in all the vaccines, and almost all cancers are viral. They don't tell you that, but they are viral. And the majority of them are going to be coming from intramuscular injection from retroviral contamination in vaccines, as well as mycoplasma contaminations. There's bacteria contamination that are not indicated on these excipient tables, right? Because they're not actual meant to be ingredients that are in there. They're contaminants. They're based on the manufacturing process, things that are getting in there that shouldn't be in there, but we inject you with them anyway. So guys, I hope this was worth your time, but do your research. It goes deep. And again, like I said at the very beginning of this video, it's not just vaccines. It's not just fluoride in the water. It's not just plastics in our environment. It's not just flame retardants. It's not all the chemicals we're breathing. It's everything combined. Okay? But I focus on vaccines because it's ones people typically look over, and it's probably one of the most important ones because intramuscular injection, bypassing all of the body's filtration and defense systems and going straight to intramuscular injection, is the worst type of toxicity you can be exposed to. Okay, ingestion, your body will do its best to eliminate toxins via ingestion, but you will still be poisoned. And even intravenous is different than intramuscular. You're still going to be filtering through the blood system, through your circulatory system. There are filtration mechanisms that will help reduce that toxic load. But intramuscular injection, the translocation of the immune system that takes that and just delivers it all over the body, including the brain, the liver, the heart, the spleen, the kidneys, everywhere, but not through natural processes, is a huge, huge issue. Okay? And we're all paying the price. We're the sickest population that's ever been here, and yet we're dragging out this sick life with drugs. So in one hand, we're living longer, but we're sicker along the way. So we can have long, vibrant, and healthy lives by learning how to eat well, what proper nutrition really is, avoiding toxins the best you can. It's a toxic world. You can't avoid them completely, but the best you can. And so nourish your body, avoid toxins, and you can naturally thrive and be happy, healthy, and vibrant. And when you're in that condition, you can help those that have been injured along the way by the system and help try to heal them or give them the best quality of life that you can while they're with us and while we're together, so that we can be one and whole and happy. All right, guys. Hope you learned something. Love you.